there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily and I am the homeschooling mom of a soon-to-be second grader. On this channel, I talk about homeschool tips, mom life, and faith and culture. Sight words are one of those things that most parents hate. They think that their kid needs to learn 250 words on sight, rote memorization, but there are a few common misconceptions about sight words or whole word memorization that has been very detrimental to the way we teach students how to read. Misconception number one, sight words are words that cannot be sounded out using the rules of decoding like other words. And this is simply not true. Most sight words are high frequency words, which basically means that they happen a lot. Now, in whole word memorization, you're teaching kids to just learn what a word looks like or the arrangement of letters, and then they're supposed to just magically remember what that is. But it's really, really hard for students and parents to work on memorizing sight words. There are many sight words that follow the traditional forms of sounding out words using digraphs, phonemes, and consonant blends. It's not as difficult as we would think. So you don't need to worry. Sight words, in most cases, can be sounded out phonetically. Sight words also are commonly misconstrued as not following the basic rules of phonics. And again, that's not true because, as I said, you can break the word apart, and then as the student constantly is engaging with this word, eventually it becomes a sight word because they've mastered it, but they also know how to break apart a word that they're unfamiliar with and learn how to read it. There's also a misconception that memorizing sight words makes you a faster reader. While it is true that we're seeing in younger grades students reading quicker, they're picking it up faster, and they're reading some texts more quickly, that tends to slow down if a student hasn't been taught how to phonetically sound out and decode words. So in 4th and 5th grade, students are engaging with longer words that have more syllables, and the sight words that they were breezing through in these younger years that they memorize, they're finding out it's not helpful to have memorized it because they can't decode these longer words. And then finally, another misconception is that a lot of teachers were trained that sight words were high frequency words that students had to just learn to memorize in a snap and on sight. That is not true. Many of our sight words are not words that have to be memorized. Well, yes, it is true that there are some words where the letters don't actually make the regular sounds, like the word said. Most sight words are not actually sight words. So one of the reasons that this is important for you to know if you're homeschooling or if you're just watching this to help your student learn is that there are some dangerous truths about what we refer to as sight word memorization, or more importantly, whole word reading. So students in whole word reading are actually just memorizing the shape of a word. They're not understanding how the individual phonemes of each letter can help them sound out the letter. They're not seeing the blends or the digraphs. They're just looking at it as either a shape or a series of letters that they have to memorize. This is not helpful in teaching students how to read or creating better readers long term. Also, students in lower grades who learned how to read using whole word memorization may look like quick, adept readers that, as I said, as they progress to more complex texts, longer words, multi-syllable words, it does eventually catch up and they are confused because they don't have those tools in place to break apart words and figure out how to read them. And then finally, what's sadly been shown through research is that whole word memorization has led hundreds, if not thousands of kids to be misdiagnosed as dyslexic because they're not understanding or quickly picking up these words. So here's a couple surprises in this video that you're going to learn. Surprise! Most sight words can actually be decoded using their phonemes and their digraphs. You can teach your kid how to do this, and I'm going to show you how we do it with All About Reading because this is a fantastic phonics-based approach to teaching your student how to read. And then, surprise! Sight word memorization is a technique used by public schools to teach thousands of students and push them along in the system. There's no real evidence that it's a better form of teaching when you compare it to phonics-based teaching. And a wonderful book that really educated me on this was Crimes of the Educators by Samuel Blumenfeld. And Samuel Blumenfeld discusses how whole word memorization has been so destructive in teaching students how to read and how it's contributed to the continuous mass epidemic of adults who are illiterate. So before I go into how we approach segmenting words, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about All About Reading. This program focuses mostly on phonics mastery and decoding strategies. And while there are no huge lists of sight words with All About Reading, your child will have a few words that they call leap words. A leap word could be a sight word in the fact that it doesn't follow the normal rules of decoding or phonics, but it also just means that in the level you're working at, you haven't learned that rule just yet. I think it's a great resource for teaching your child to read. So let's take a look at how I teach. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I use when I'm teaching my daughter how to read and how to decode words using the phonograms that come with All About Reading, but then I'll also show you another technique that works really well too to just sort of solidify how to segment words. So All About Reading curriculum is level 2. This correlates with first or second grade, and I'm only going to use the phonogram cards. A phonogram card is basically like a diagraph. So this is the dolch sight words for first grade list. There's 41 words on this list. Some of these are definitely ones, if we're looking through, we can notice that our phonogram cards are teaching these blends and these diagraphs. Okay, a blend is when you still hear the individual letters in the blend. So that would be like play, okay? Diagraphs would be two words, two consonants combine to make a brand new sound, like th and ng and unk and sh. So if you look at these, you can see that is in the word after, okay? Again, that is not going to work for this. Words like she and think and them and then and think and what. So this is kind of helpful because you have a phonogram blend right here, and then you can sound out the other words based on what you know. In the word think, we have the phonogram NK, but we also have TH. So my child knows that TH makes one of two sounds. It either says th or th. So we want to segment this word, okay? So we're gonna write down think. Okay. So I would first have her identify what phonograms she sees in this word. She would see th, and she would also see ink. So we have th and ink. Then we have something in the middle. It's an I. I has multiple sounds. It can be I, E. So she can work through what she thinks they're going to be, but using this, she can segment the word. Ink, think. So you want to blend. When she's learning a word, she's going to be doing ink. But that's not how we talk. So I give her the word blend, and she blends from left to right. Ink. If you teach your child to recognize the phonograms or the blends or the diagraphs, it's going to be much easier if they see a quote sight word in their reading or need to learn it quickly. Another way you can use this is for the word when. So if I turn this over and I write down when. Okay, so what is the first phonogram? W. So we've learned that when a vowel is inside of a word, it says its short sound. So she knows that that's going to be and in only makes one sound. W, when. So these common used sight words, a lot of the times we think that they can't be sounded out using the proper ways of decoding a word, but they actually can if you segment it and pull it apart. So here's another way of doing this that makes it more of a multi-sensory approach. So we did think, and we could do the same with width. So I would tell her that we need to sound this out. And then I would ask her, let's find the blends of sounds we know. So she could first come here and say th, and then she would go back and she would sound it out. W, I, th. She knows, again, that vowels inside of a word say they're a short sound, but also that vowels, when they're in a word, the first vowel is always a short sound. So, w, I, th. But what we want to do now is we've got these boxes, and this is kind of fun. So in our last example, we divided th, I, nk. So now she has to figure out, well, which box would these best go in? Think could do one of two things. You could treat it as th, I, nk, and that could be for, or like with, you could treat it as w, I, th. So I would, when I am teaching this, we always treat this as its own sound. I try not to take this apart because I find that she becomes a better and more adept reader if she remembers to look at these as the phonograms that they are. Th, I, nk. So what we would do is we could bring this down, and it would probably fit really well in here, but this could also fit in here. Let's do with. So, w, I, th. She's just segmented it. With. She could also do the same with think, okay? Th, I, nk. Th, I, nk. And what I really enjoy about this technique is even if you didn't have the boxes, you can use little counters to help your child. So my daughter's gonna look at this, and as she's saying it, she's gonna pull down the counters to segment the word. Th, I, k, think, th, ink. So as you can see, you can use this list and you can go through them. Now, there are some words that don't really work out too well with this, but you can still use the process of segmenting the word based on knowing the individual phoneme of the letter. Let's look at the word said. Okay, now this is sort of complex in here, this AI. You can look at the word and have your kid sound out each individual sound. S and D. We know that s and d, that's the only sound that those letters make. So then we can come in here and we can figure out what it might say. If I've told her that the word is said and she goes s and d, then she's gonna be like, okay, in this word it says s, d. This was kind of complex for my child. In All About Reading, they referred to this as a leap word. So we learned it because it kept coming up in our stories, but you can apply that. Now, this is one of those really weird sort of like combinations. It's spelled AI, but it makes the sound of eh. So you're gonna see phonetically when kids are writing this out down, said, but you want to make sure that your child knows that this is sort of one of those weird break in the rules, and they could put like a little signal down under here so that when they see it, they'll match the star and the blend of AI so they know that it doesn't say the correct sound. Thank you for joining me. I hope you found this video helpful. If you would like to see more videos, make sure to subscribe below. And if you have a strategy that's been effective in teaching your child how to recognize these high frequency words or sight words, make sure to leave them in the comment box below. I hope you have a great day. Bye.